With only 2 weeks remaining in the NBA regular season, there are 12 NBA teams fighting for their playoff seeding and 8 play-in teams fighting just to get in the dance. So in today's video, we're going to be ranking all 20 of these NBA teams headed into the playoffs, from least likely to win the championship to most likely to win it. Hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get right to it. First, let's start with a team that I unfortunately have in last place, and that's going to be the Golden State Warriors. This team has had a very interesting season, to say the least. It all started with a Jonathan Kuminga situation. The team brought him back in the offseason and then for some reason just didn't play him any minutes whatsoever. And by the time we get to the trade deadline, the Warriors are a solid play-in team at best, and they trade Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield for Kristaps Porzingis. Now, in theory, I love the fit, but in reality, this was a questionable move to make for sure. And it's one of the reasons why I have the Warriors ranked so low. But I would say the main reason is just the health of this squad. We all know Jimmy Butler went down a few months ago with a season-ending ACL tear, and Steph Curry, their obvious best player. The team goes nowhere without him. He's the entire engine of the offense. He's only played in 39 games this year. He's been dealing with nagging injuries all year long, and they suffered another blow last week when Moses Moody went down with a gnarly injury that could keep him out until the 2028 season. So when you take a look at this roster for what it is now after these injuries, it's Steph, Kristaps, Draymond Green, B-Pods, and DeAnthony Melton. That's just not a recipe for success, especially when you consider that Kristaps, your big trade deadline acquisition, is most likely not going to survive a 7-game series in the playoffs. Even if you do make it, he's only played in 26 games this year. Now, to be fair to this team, when you look at the roster for what it is and look at how many games their best players have missed, having a 35-38 record to this point in the season is not bad at all. But with a hobbled Steph Curry, no Jimmy Butler, no Moses Moody, I don't like this team's chances headed into the play-in or the playoffs. Let's take a word from today's sponsor, Kalshi. Kalshi is the largest prediction market in the US that lets you win money on thousands of different events, the weather, sports, reality TV, and more. You are not going up against a house with edges stacked against you. It is peer-to-peer trading. Real people, real opinions, real money. Sports, politics, pop culture, if it is happening, there is a market for it. And the best part, Kalshi is available everywhere, including California and Texas, so no matter where you are watching this from, you can get in on this right now. Here is how it works. You pick an event, say, will the Golden State Warriors win tonight, or will JD Vance be the Republican nominee in 2028? You buy a yes or no contract, and you are trading against other users that disagree with you. If you are right, you get paid. You can also jump in and out of your position at any time to lock in a win or cut a loss early. It is flexible, it is live, and it moves fast. Oh, and they have combos. Stack multiple predictions together and multiply your potential payout across completely different events. Look how clean this is. You've got game markets right here, political markets, entertainment. I am looking at who will be on the cover of NBA 2K27 right now, and I love this one. Here is my take. I think Victor Wembanyama should make the 2K27 cover, so I'm going with green. This is where putting your prediction on the line actually means something. New users, this is for you specifically. Download the Kalshi app, use code C2C, trade just $10, and they're gonna drop $10 back into your account. That is free money just for trying it out. It takes 5 minutes to set up, it works on your phone, and again, California, Texas, all 50 states, you are covered. Code is C2C, link is in the bio, let's go. Right behind the Warriors at 19, let's talk about the Miami Heat, who have also had a very interesting season that got much more interesting after Bam Adebayo scored 83 points. I almost wanted to rank them a little bit higher just based off of that, but the harsh truth about the Miami Heat is that they're mid. They're a mid team, and they've been mid for like 3 years straight. Yep, they were an 8 seed last year, an 8 seed in 2023, an 8 seed in 2022, and the only thing that has changed really in that time is trading Jimmy Butler for Andrew Wiggins and trading for Norman Powell. Last season, the Heat snuck into the playoffs and got absolutely wiped down by the Cleveland Cavaliers in 4 games, and I don't think the addition of Norman Powell is going to prevent that from happening again or make them a much better team come postseason time. That's just not really where Norm thrives. But the big three of Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, and Norman Powell is good enough to certainly get you in the playoffs as a lower seed in the Eastern Conference. However, I just don't think they're much more than that. At 18, let's talk about the Portland Trailblazers, who have, I guess, overachieved this season as a lower seed play-in team. Now, I do this when I say overachieve because I actually think this Trailblazers roster is much better than their win total shows. With the bad coaching of Thiago Splitter, with the unfortunate injuries this team has had to deal with this season, and the inconsistencies from some of their best players, there have been a lot of Trailblazers games that have just slipped out their hands, games they should have won. Overall, this is a really talented roster and a well-balanced one at that. You have a phenomenal big man rotation of Donovan Clingan, who's been one of the best big men in the NBA over the last few months, and Robert Williams, who's a phenomenal backup center. At the forward spots, you have Deni Avdija, who was an all-star, Jeremy Grant, who's been a very consistent offensive option over the years for them, and Toumani Camara, who's an all-NBA level defender, with Drew Holiday alongside him in the backcourt, and another scoring guard in Shaedon Sharpe, even Scoot Henderson. Like, if this team was coached better, more healthy, and a little bit more consistent offensively, there could be so many options to go to. Like, this could be a actually scary team. But as of today, with everything considered, I can't rank them much higher than 18. At 17, I've got the Orlando Magic, who are one game above 500 with a 35-34 record, and it looks like they're going to finish in the same boat as they did last season, and about 500 team. This team is very similar to Portland in many ways. I feel like they're a much better roster than their win total shows, and for as much as the NBA world has talked about Paolo Banchero, his shortcomings, and where he's not effective, especially shooting the ball, I think he has taken on more of a prominent role as far as leading the team in Franz Wagner's absence, becoming a better rebounder, becoming more involved in the playmaking of the offense, and the addition of Desmond Bane in the offseason has been really nice for them. Now, their win total from last season to this season with Desmond Bane hasn't changed all too much, but you can definitely see the impact that he's made offensively. He's had a very solid season. He's been arguably their most consistent scorer at times this year, and I think he's going to make a big difference for this team come postseason time. Just above Orlando at 16, I've got the LA Clippers, who, when we want to talk about a tumultuous, chaotic season, this is the team to talk about. But things did go down that certainly have limited what the Clippers are capable of come postseason time. Like, first of all, the Ivica Zubac trade, and are now left with a big man rotation of Brook Lopez, who is 40 years old, and Isaiah Jackson, who's only 6'9". Also, the season-ending injury to their first-round rookie center Yannick Konan-Niederhauser, who looked really solid in the few minutes that he played this season, is certainly going to hold them back come postseason time with the lack of size they have at the front court. However, with the way Darius Garland has been playing out of his mind in LA over the last few weeks, and also a top 5 player on the planet arguably in Kawhi Leonard, it is going to be difficult to bet against them headed into any given game. But with the weak big man rotation and the overall lack of depth on this roster, I think they can still challenge a top seeded team and take a few games away from them, but I don't think they can win their first round playoff series. At 15, let's talk about the Phoenix Suns, who were heavily doubted coming into the season, obviously trading Kevin Durant for Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks, but by all means, they've exceeded their expectations. They've been a playoff team all season long, they've maintained a top 10 defense, and the offense hasn't struggled without Kevin Durant. Oddly enough, even without Jalen Green playing for most of the season, Dillon Brooks stepped up as a legit second option next to Devin Booker, and Mark Williams has been more than reliable for Phoenix. He's playing some of his best basketball, and also Iguodala off the bench has also been really good. And Devin Booker leading the ship. We all saw him be the best player on an NBA Finals team. We all know what he is capable of, and a healthy Jalen Green next to him in the backcourt. This could be an interesting team in the playoffs for sure. At 14, let's go with the Charlotte Hornets. This has been one of, if not the most electrifying and hot team in the year of 2026 in the NBA. It took them a while to get in a groove in this regular season and start actually racking up wins, but all year long, Con Knipple has looked like one of the favorites for the Rookie of the Year award. He's been one of the best NBA rookies ever, flat out. He's taken this offense to new heights, and Brandon Miller is also having a career year. He's averaging over 20 points per game. And LaMelo Ball, we all know what he can do with the ball in his hands when he's fully healthy, and he's been a great initiator of the offense as well, and he's also been available, actually out there on the court. He hasn't played this many games since 2021, with Miles Bridges as well, who can easily chip in 20 plus points on any given night. And with what I've seen over the last few months, the way that they have flat out dominated really good basketball teams, the Charlotte Hornets are not a team that I want to face in the play-in or the playoffs. At 13, I've got the Toronto Raptors. This team came out the gate extremely hot, playing really good basketball, but over the last few months, they've definitely slipped in the standings and haven't been as competitive. But I mean, they're still the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference, and they're 8 games above 500, so you could definitely still call this season a success, but I've seen just as many negatives out of the Raptors as I've seen positives. positives. For one, the shooting on this team is, I'll just say, below average. RJ Barrett's not a reliable three-point shooter, neither is Scotty Barnes. Brandon Ingram can, but that's not his bread and butter, and Emmanuel Quickley is having a down season shooting the ball. They're just not great in the half court, and their go-to bucket getter guy, 1A scoring option, is going to be Brandon Ingram. I don't know how to feel about that. And they don't have a guy that can come off the bench and give you a bucket either. That's definitely a concern. Defensively, however, it's another story. They're actually pretty damn good on that side of the ball, with Scotty Barnes leading the way as one of the NBA's best overall defenders. And that's about my main piece on the Toronto Raptors. There's a ton of talent on this team, a ton of positives to take away, but an equal amount of negatives, so I don't really know how to feel about them. At 12, I have the Atlanta Hawks. Now, for every question that I had for the Toronto Raptors, I have similar ones for this team as well. And I really don't know which way to lean, because on one hand, I really like the roster construction with the super athletic wings, but there's also valid questions for this team as well. Is Onyeka Okongwu a good enough defensive starting center? Is Jonathan Kuminga a legitimate rotation player that you can play 25 minutes in the playoffs? Can Nickeil Alexander-Walker continue averaging his 20+ points per game in a playoff series? These are things that you could definitely question. But overall, I like this Atlanta team. They finally played up to their expectations in at least certain aspects, and I think they stand a fighting chance against almost any team in the East. At 11, let's go with the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, when we talk about a team that, if I'm a top seed in the Eastern Conference, there's a specific team that I don't want to match up against, that might be the Philadelphia 76ers, led by Tyrese Maxey, who's been one of the best guards in the entire NBA all season long, and Joel Embiid, who's made a miraculous comeback, at times looking like the MVP that we saw in 2023. Those two alone are good enough to carry a team offense. Tyrese Maxey can drop 30 in a sleep, Embiid can put up 30 and 12 in a sleep, and it genuinely makes me think, just how dangerous could this team have been in the playoffs if they didn't trade Jared McCain? Now, I'm not going to drag it like Jared McCain is an all-star and they traded him for a second-round pick, but having a three-point shooter like him, a bucket getter off the bench, could have made a world of a difference come the time that they are playing in the playoffs. However, thankfully, VJ Edgecombe has more than panned out. He's been a phenomenal rookie, been in the Rookie of the Year race all year long, and I think with his shot-creating ability, his speed, his ability to get out in transition, his game should translate perfectly to a playoff setting. And if Paul George can actually stay healthy, be a super max 3-and-D wing that averages 18 points per game, this could be a really scary team in the playoffs. At 10, I've got the Houston Rockets. Now, we're at a point in the season where you could definitely argue that I'm overrating what the Rockets are, given that we've seen much more negativity come from this team this season than positivity. You have Ime Udoka being a god-awful coach, you have the KD burner scandal, you have the Alperen Şengün inconsistencies, you had the injuries to Steven Adams and Fred VanVleet, two of maybe your 5 most important players on the team. But with all that being said, for as much as you can argue that the Rockets have been a disaster, and I won't necessarily disagree, they still have 43 wins on the year, and they definitely have games where they remind you what they're capable of, with Amen Thompson as one of the best perimeter defenders we have in the league, Kevin Durant, one of the best isolation scorers in NBA history, still kicking it at almost 40 years old, and an all-star caliber big man in Alperen Şengün who can give you 20 and 12 without breaking a sweat. This team has the talent to win a playoff series, undoubtedly, but it's the internal questions that everyone has for this team. Is Ime Udoka a good enough coach? Does this team even like each other? Does the Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün duo even work? That is yet to be seen, so for now I have them at 10. At 9, let's roll with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, this is one of the most interesting teams, in my opinion, in these upcoming playoffs to watch, because we've seen what this team is capable of with Anthony Edwards as their best player. They went to the Western Conference Finals back-to-back years, and I think they're definitely good enough to repeat that this year. Now, we haven't seen Anthony Edwards be the best player on a championship team, obviously, but it's hard for me to say that he can't be. This is a guy that's capable of averaging damn near 30 points per game on 40% from 3. He's insanely good. And adding Ayo Dosunmu at the trade deadline is going to make a huge difference for this team come playoff time. This is a guy who's very good at guarding the perimeter, can rack up steals, is also very versatile, can shoot it from deep, can take it to the hole, and can also play the guard and wing spots. So I would not be shocked if, yet again, the Timberwolves are one of the last remaining teams in the playoffs. At 8, I'm going to go with the Cleveland Cavaliers, who, when you look at their starting 5, is easily one of the best in the NBA. James Harden, still an all-star caliber point guard, dropped 55 points in a game this year at 36 years old. Donovan Mitchell, one of the most efficient scorers and best players in the entire NBA. Evan Mobley, a phenomenal defender, a defensive player of the year candidate year in and year out. Jared Allen, a great rebounder, a great lob catcher. I mean, this team is about as talented as any other team in the league. It's just about finding consistency and being able to make winning plays in the playoffs, which is something that we just have not seen out of the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Donovan Mitchell era. Hopefully that changes with James Harden now on the team, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that will debate that possibility, but maybe this year is different and they make that finals run. Honestly, they have no excuse not to. At 7, I've got the New York Knicks. Now, the opinion about the Knicks is kind of swaying. It feels like week in and week out. Probably the biggest market in the NBA. There's a lot of talking points that comes with it, but I'm gonna try and simplify what I think. I think this is a team that, no matter what the matchup is, can beat any team in the NBA in a 7-game series if they're on point. If Mikal Bridges is able to score 20 plus consistently, if OG Anunoby can shoot the ball well, if Jalen Brunson can continue being the outrageous scorer that he is. It mainly comes down to, can this team and its best players play at their best night in and night out? And truthfully, as a collective unit, this team just hasn't done that very often. At 6, I've got the Los Angeles Lakers. This is a team that is extremely difficult to rank in any given circumstances because overall as a roster, outside of their 3 best players, it's a bit lacking, and you would question how they're even as good as they've been. But when you have a talent on the level of Luka Doncic, arguably a top 3 player on the planet, an MVP candidate averaging over 30 points a game, your team can go anywhere with a guy like that at the helm. You also have LeBron James. Although he is 40 years old, he has tapped into that Aaron Gordon-esque role where he's taken a backseat in the scoring department, but has taken on a larger playmaking role, defensive role. And Luka's got a running mate in the backcourt in Austin Reeves, a guy who's played like an all-star throughout stretches this season. If he can stay healthy during the playoffs along with LeBron James and Luka Doncic, that 3-headed monster alone can take you to the NBA Finals. But the worries begin with the rest of the supporting cast. Marcus Smart, Jared Vanderbilt, Jake LaRavia. Can the guys coming off the bench make open shots, make winning plays, play good defense? They're gonna have to if this Lakers team wants to get through a San Antonio or through an OKC, and that has me worried a little bit. At 5th, I'm gonna go with the Boston Celtics, a team that I was very wrong about. I and a lot of people thought that the Celtics were just gonna take a gap year and let Jason Tatum recover from his Achilles tear, but they didn't do that. They stuck to the program, and the program in Boston is winning. Even without Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown went out there and performed, put on a showcase. He's been an MVP candidate this year, and deservedly so. And they've gotten massive contributions from guys like Neemias Queta, who stepped up as a legit starting center. Their young guys like Hugo Gonzalez and Jordan Walsh have also played a big part in their success. This season, it felt like no matter who Boston had on the floor, whether the guy was making $50 million a year or $2 million a year, he was going to go out there and compete and try to win that basketball game, and they've done so. They've been really damn good. There's not many teams out there I would take over Boston in a playoff series, and me 6 months ago would not believe I would be saying this right now, so that just goes to show how incredible of a season this has been for the Celtics. At 4th, let's go with the Detroit Pistons, the best team in the Eastern Conference currently, and in my opinion, the team that has the best chance of making the NBA Finals and winning the NBA championship out of the Eastern Conference. This season has been incredible for Detroit. They've held the 1 seed in the East for what feels like the entire season, and Cade Cunningham somehow took an even further leap from last year. He's been incredible running the offense. He's been an MVP candidate and one of the best overall players in the NBA this year, leading this team. His partner in crime down low, his favorite target in Jalen Duren, has also looked incredible this year. He's setting himself up for a super max extension this offseason. But my main concern with the Detroit Pistons and why I don't have them higher, even though I truly want to put them higher, is their lack of just flat out bucket getters. A guy who can score his own basket without being set up or put in a play in an action by Cade. Somebody alongside him that can give him a break, handle the ball, create their own shot. They just don't have guys like that. Now, they did bring in Karis LeVert in the offseason to kind of be that guy off the bench, but he's been flat out terrible. I'm worried that although they are a much improved team from last year's playoffs that they do run into the same issues with the clunky offense. So that aspect does worry me a bit, but I still have them as the best team in the East, and they should by all means be an NBA Finals team. At third, I've got the Denver Nuggets. Now, this could be controversial. A lot of you guys could disagree with me having the Nuggets this high, considering they've actually underperformed in many aspects this season. The addition of Cameron Johnson has definitely been questionable, considering MPJ was playing the best basketball of his life in Brooklyn, and Cam Johnson was having a down season in Denver in all metrics. Christian Braun has also been dealing with injuries this year. He's only played in 40 games and is averaging 4 less points and 10% worse from 3 this year. Those are just things you can nitpick about what's went wrong with the Nuggets this season. Nothing's necessarily went wrong. This is still one of the best teams in the West, but they're not dominating their way through the regular season in the way that the 2023 Nuggets were. But truthfully, I just have a feeling, an instinct, that the best that we're going to see of this Nuggets roster is going to begin in the playoffs. They've been shaky throughout this season, but I think bringing back Bruce Brown, the addition of Tim Hardaway Jr. as well, who's been one of the best low-key signings of this year's free agency. He's been incredible for the Nuggets, and Cameron Johnson is starting to catch on a bit, and I think he'll also start to blossom once the playoffs come, the game slows down, and Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray start playing to their own speeds. I'm high on what this team can do in the playoffs this year. In second, I've got the San Antonio Spurs. This probably comes to the surprise of no one. This team's been incredible. History has shown us over the last decade plus that the playoffs reward teams that give it their all in the regular season and win as many games as possible, and the Spurs have been on that this year. This is the second seed in the Western Conference with a 56-18 record. Victor Wembanyama has looked like the best defensive player in the NBA, while also being able to control the pace of the offense, grab boards, shoot threes, mid-range follow-away shots, while being an incredible shot blocker. There's just not much you can do to stop him, and he might be one of the most difficult players in NBA history to game plan against. It's just going to be so difficult to keep him out of the restricted area, and even when you do, he can still hit that three. And then you've got floor spacers around him like Devin Vassell and super dynamic and athletic guards and De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle, with a second overall pick Dylan Harper, who's come out of his shell in the second half of the season coming off the bench. There's just so many options to go to offensively, and defensively they're even better. Wemby's averaging over 3 blocks a game on the season and brings an entirely different force that teams have to find a way to game plan against. This team just has so many different ways they can attack you and bury you, and I would not want to play them in any series at all. And in first, I have the boring repeat of last year, the OKC Thunder. This team has given me no worry or indication that they aren't capable of winning back-to-back championships this year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, needless to be said, still an MVP candidate, still building off of what he put up last year. Incredible player. And the guys that played huge pivotal parts in your championship run last year are still here, like Isaiah Hartenstein, J-Dub, Lou Dort. Last season, they finished with the best record in the entire NBA, and they haven't let their feet off the gas, which is a great sign for things to come. They're 57-16 on the year. They've retained the core that won them a championship last season, and you've even seen improvements from guys like Chet Holmgren and the explosion of AJ Mitchell, who's become a 14-point per game scorer. This team looks as dominant as ever, offensively and defensively. Yes, they've had some lapses in their regular season in ways that they didn't last year, but I still don't see any catastrophic signs that they won't repeat this year. So with 2 weeks remaining in the NBA regular season, that is my list, and OKC comes out on top. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me. If you guys did enjoy the video, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Let me know what you agreed with and what you disagreed with. Thank you for watching to the very end. I hope to catch you guys in the next one soon. Until then, I'm out. Deuces.